What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. On this video, I'm going to put the cheapest part I could find online onto this engine and see if it works.
Hyper Speed Media.
So I bought this car a while back, a couple months now, and it's been sitting at the yard doing nothing. So I figured, let's put the cheapest component we could find online into this car and see if it works. So we're going to find out in this video. So I bought a whole bunch of parts from Rock Auto, some parts from China, whatever I could find that is very cheap. Including the water pump, the timing belt, the seals, the clutch system, and all that other good stuff. So we're going to put the cheapest part possible and see if it works at all. And in the process, as you can see, it's an automatic transmission. We're going to swap that into 5-speed as well, so we can put the new clutch in. So the car has a perfectly running engine with no issue at all, but there's some issue with the transmission, so we're going to get rid of that and put the 5-speed in. Engine rebuild, we're not going to do that. We're just going to put all the maintenance component on it. So that's include all the seals, the water pump, the timing belt, the gasket, all the basic stuff like that. Okay, first thing first, I'm going to pull the engine with the transmission, disconnect the exhaust, the drive shaft, all the wiring right here near the starter and the alternator. Then I'll work my way to the top. I just finished disconnecting all the components on the bottom of the car. Now it's time to work on the top. Disconnect the harness, remove the intake, the radiator, and disconnect the fuel line. Make sure everything's out of the way before we can remove the engine. Okay, so the engine is out. It's a bit of a struggle because I have to do this by myself, and also there's the ground's kind of like an incline, and then on top of that, this is the hump right here that I got to overcome. So the engine's out, and next I got to deal with this crap and maybe clean it up. It's just a mess right now. All right, as you can see here, the engine is already out, as well as a new transmission we have, new used one. It's a 5-speed transmission for a Miata, and also got the manual PPF and a manual drive shaft, and I also have the clutch pedal inside the car. So we're going to do a 5-speed swap and put all the cheapest clutch component for that. All right, now we're going to do a price breakdown of all the parts that I bought and which part can we get away with and which part we must use OEM. That's what I really wanted to know, because then in the future I'll just use that part all over again and probably save so much money in the long run if it works. Hopefully it works. But the website that I sourced most of these parts from, or I tried to find the cheapest one, was through AliExpress, Temu, eBay, Amazon, and Rock Auto. Surprisingly enough, the cheapest, if you want to go to the cheapest of the cheap, right? It's actually Rock Auto. They have like clearance sale, closeout sale that are cheap as hell. Like, I'll go through some of these parts right now, and you'll be surprised how cheap they sell some of these parts. But again, if it works, man, it is a win-win for all of us. So we're just gonna load a whole bunch of these parts. Now, let's start off with the first seal. So it's this engine right here. Who knows how long it's been on the car and never taken care of, so I'm going to refresh everything. And if it does leak, not a big deal. I'll take it back out. I did this hundreds of times and put the OEM seal back in. So, but for now, we really want to run this test and make sure and see which one works and see which one doesn't. So let's go over some of the parts. So the first part will be back of the engine, of course. There's automatic, but I'm going to remove this out and replace the the rear main seal. And the price of the rear main seal, it's $1.35, which is crazy, $1.35. And the next seal that we're going to cover is the camshaft seal, which is right here. There's 2 of them. So we got, each one is $1.27, so we need 2 of them. The next seal, it will be the main oil seal, front crank seal. And so I bought 2 brands just to test out which one is better. One seal is $1, and the other seal is $3.82. So we have 2 of those to play around with. And the timing kit for this whole car, the cheapest I found was $20.79. That includes the belt, the tensioner, the idler, and the spring. That includes everything for this car for 20 bucks, which is crazy. And the next thing up is the water pump and the water pump gasket, and that's $21.79. Next, we got a full engine gasket kit, well, engine head gasket kit. So everything on top of the engine will be replaced with all the new gasket. Everything on the bottom will stay because the engine is running perfectly fine. There's no need to mess with the piston and stuff like that. So the full engine head gasket kit is $57.89. That including a new head gasket, intake gasket, exhaust gasket, camshaft seal, which I have 2 spares, so these 2 extras. And then you got the valve cover gasket, valve stem seal. Debating to change that or not because the OEM seals are so good on that. Okay, so I'll think about that. And then the throttle body gasket, all that stuff, idle air, thermostat gasket, pretty much everything on the head will get replaced. Next, we need 2 engine mount. So the cheapest I found was $12.71. That includes each side. So, I mean, that's for each side. So you have to buy 2 of them. And then next is spark plugs. So we're going to need 4 spark plugs. And the cheapest one I found was $1.60. We're going to need 4 of them. So it's roughly about $6, something like that. And oil filter. So oil filter, the cheapest one, surprisingly enough, is $1.60. Oil filter. Wow. And next, we're going to need coolant. So we're going to need like 2 gallons of coolant or something like that. About $5.47 each. So we need 2 of that. The thermostat is $5.79. And while we're at it, might as well replace the radiator cap, which is $3.20. And that's pretty much everything for the engine. Now we're going to go into the transmission side. Of course, this will get removed because we're putting on a 5-speed. And I happen to have a OEM flywheel, so I didn't buy that new. I'm going to use the OEM flywheel I have laying around. But other than that, everything's going to be new. That includes the clutch kit, which is $79.79. Then we need also a clutch master cylinder and a clutch slave. Clutch master cylinder is $5.96. Clutch slave is $3.27. And then also you need gear oil. You probably need 2 or 3 of those quarts, which is $6.55 all together with the transmission side, the engine, the clutch, cylinder, and all that stuff is $200.53 total. And that doesn't include tax or shipping. So with tax and shipping, it will be under 300 bucks. So if this really works, man, I'll be so freaking happy. And I'll use like the cheap component for the future. But it looks like, from my guess, it looks like it's going to leak. So it's probably going to leak from the rear main seal. It's probably going to leak from the front oil seal. And that's probably the main issue it's going to have. And probably the valve cover seal is probably going to leak too, just assuming. Yeah, well, I don't know. So we'll find out on the next video when all the parts arrive. We're going to take measurement of each one of them and see which one is the closest to OEM in measurement. And then we're going to put it together and test the car out for the first week, and then maybe the 3-month updates and maybe a year update, and see if it's really worth it doing the cheapest part you can find online. All right, guys, now let's take a look at the engine. It's a lot more cleaner than before. And while we're waiting for the part, I might as well clean it. And that's exactly what I did. And it's looking great. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And we're going to compare all the seals to the OEM seals and see what we could get away with the aftermarket parts and everything else. So all the component of the engine is going to come apart. And we're going to dissect and look at it and see which one works and which one we should stick with OEM. And Yeah, it's looking good. So don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share if you can. See you on the next video.
ハイパースピードメディア